Well. Okay.
Yes.
I guess our first would be to call to order.
We need a second on that.
Mhm.
All right. Any opposed? All right. Next would be approval of the December minutes, which are in front of us from December 13th. Anybody's had a chance to read through those or not?
Motion to approve.
Do you have a
Yeah.
second?
Second.
Thank you. Any opposed? All right, December minutes are approved. We'll go to citizen comment period. Do we have any citizens present for comments?
None. Okay.
Okay, we'll close citizen comment period. Do we go into board action items? Do we go into closed session?
No, we're not in closed session, so just board action. items.
Okay, so our first action item is election of board chair, vice chair, and secretary.
Last time we decided to wait because Julian was not present and then Jenna had not actually formally been approved by council, so we decided to push this a meeting in case any of you wanted to self-nominate yourself or anyone on the board can nominate you, whichever. We had maybe kind of talked to Eddie about or Luke about being the chair just since they have been here more regularly and kind of senior members of the board, but if anyone else wants to nominate themselves, or how about we nominate Eddie since he's not here?
I'm planning on it. Can you remind me what the length of the terms are, and then is there a clear, and then is there a clear
My understanding.
vice chair role in the chair, or not necessarily?
It's just, the vice chair would just run the meeting if the chair was not here. It's really just running the meeting and.
Okay.
So,
And I believe the term is usually, well, I believe the officers is just till we get new members the next year. And every time we see new members.
we have any nominations for chair?
I think Eddie would be a great chair.
I agree with Eddie as well.
I mean, I think he organically seems to fit.
I don't know the official rules, but if he declines, then I guess we vote again. Right?
Yeah.
I don't see him.
I'm happy to do it as well. I think he's got a little bit more experience on the ED&T board. I mean, I'm happy to be vice chair. I'm willing to nominate myself for that, I guess.
You're volunteering. I'll stop you. Thank you.
Okay. You guys make a motion and then ask for.
So do you,
Oh, do we want to talk about secretary?
The secretary takes minutes, right?
Well, but
But Susan does too.
I'm really gonna take the minutes, and with our new system, it's going to help be easy for me to create minutes just from the agenda. And so the secretary would just kind of serve as a- it's not gonna be very labor intensive.
any interest in secretary?
I'll do it if no one else wants. So all motions to appoint Eddie as the chair, Luke you as vice chair, Calvin you as secretary.
Any further discussion? Anyone opposed to the nominations?
Motion.
All right.
Very well.
Next up, we have consideration and recommendation to city council. The first is discussion and recommendation of SEO members.
So we talked about this last meeting and the board can make recommendations to the council on who they'd like to see as ex officios. We had a few that were on before, which we did not reappoint them only because this was a new board and we wanted this board to have the opportunity to make the recommendations. And at the last meeting, we also talked about maybe putting some parameters around who the qualifications for an ex officio. And so previously we had a representative from our regional, the county's economic development organization, which falls under the Greater San Marcos Partnership. So we have them as a county seat representation. We had Julie Snyder from the Kyle Area Chamber of Commerce, Dr. Eric Wright from the school district. And then we had Cassidy, who actually was a board member, but with the change in the makeup of the board requirements, she then could have been an ex officio. Cassidy works at the regional airport. It's in San Marcos, but it's a regional airport for Hays County. And so those are some of the options, and then we can make recommendations on any of those or any others. But I think we'd like to maybe also present to council some requirements for them to consider as well. I know that this board's kind of new to, to understanding an ex officio, but we can consider members of our utility partners as well that can really help bring some additional value to the table. We could add other small business members. We could have the requirement that they live in Kyle or that they don't. Although, so if we appoint Dr. Wright, he doesn't live in Kyle, so we'd have to make sure that we make that notation, whether ex officios actually need to reside within the city limits or have substantial business interests or stake in our community. Any thoughts on that?
I like to see.
Yeah.
That was a legitimate question. I'm not gonna stay long. With ex officio Kathy,
Cassidy,
the airport.
oh, Kathy,
uh,
Kathy Barinol.
So there's a chance that airport is gonna become commuter at some point in the next couple of years. So just something to keep in mind. I think there's an opportunity there, especially within the tourism element of this board. It's something that I had, they recently, the Greater San Marcos GSMB, they recently just had a change in leadership, but the guy who was running it beforehand, I was talking to him about how, it's like, when you guys, because we pay into that group, the Greater San Marcos Business Partnership, yeah, in terms of economic development, I'm like, are you guys ever using our close proximity to the airport to try to bring in manufacturing, to bring in, bigger businesses that would be like massive property tax codes and things for that, like that for the city? And the answer was no. So just, I think that's an opportunity also, is to, a value of possibly having her here. How can her and here help to clue you all in more on opportunities to utilize the city's partnership with that organization to try to bring a different type of business here, who would be a significant amount of value being directly located in between San Marcos Regional Airport and Austin.
I know Eddie was also, with his business operations, he was talking to Cassidy about some opportunities.
I think her in particular is a good representation of fixing from transportation generals. I think so I guess is our goal to define criteria proposals to recommend to council or to nominate? Yes, maybe that's
yeah,
splitting
what do
hairs
we think
between the
it-
two.
We'd need to make the criteria.
Well, I guess look at the
First
criteria
one
and
is
see
the
if they need to
criteria.
be changed.
Yeah,
Oh, is the criteria in here? In just back to Cassidy from the airport, she was willing and interested to stay on as an ex officio. I just told her to hang tight for just a little bit, and so was Dr. Wright, and so was Julie. So all of them found great value in being on this board and willing to stay on it. But we just kind of have them waiting and see. So Susan, you said, I'm sorry, the criteria is in here, right?
Yeah.
Five.
I like the composition, you know, when we have Hayes CISD, have transportation, we have Greater San Marcos Partnership, and then Kyle Chamber. I mean, I think those are all good.
Yeah.
It is, right?
Additions to the
Yeah.
board. I guess previously we had additional representation just from higher education,
Higher
which would be
education.
ACC,
Mhm.
you know.
And then you, another utility partner, we have, Keston.
And if they're all willing and able to do the job, I don't know why we should stop them and get representation and now get this going. Probably debate on what other limitations or qualifications would be appropriate. And if they meet the current language, I would be in favor of all.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think the qualifications as defined here are broad enough without being restrictive. Hayes County or contiguous, I think that's open enough that it's not going to be limiting in any way. Yeah, I think all the people coming back, they're all from relatively diverse and varied backgrounds. I think that's going to be very insightful.
Maybe we can also say, just have be a stakeholder in Kyle, because I know Cassidy lives in. You're from where the horses live? No. No, you're from the house, the horses. That live by the brothel dish. Yeah. Okay. I feel like she bought a home out in the lake or New Braunfels, so that's not is that contiguous? Oh, Mountain County, oh, okay, then that might work. Just don't want to exclude her.
Yeah.
And have to go back to council, so, Cassidy,
Oh.
yeah, this is New Braunfels. The new year, your friends. So would we make the recommendation first to council and then to any changes we want to see to this, and then at the same time, we could, make a recommendation to the council on the actual members in the same meeting? I guess they could take up one item and then the next.
Are any changes needed?
Well, I don't remember.
I guess that's the first thing is, you know, this, if we're happy with this criteria, I mean, we have a loose, we have some expectations of who we'd like representation from. I don't know if we need to modify the criteria or not.
It's just those 5 things.
Okay, but do these criteria disqualify any of them? I guess not. No, I think Dr. Wright may live, I think maybe, Boston, I'm not sure.
But it does say or employed in a business in the.
Oh, Dennis Epper?
It's at the end of number 4.
Or employed in a business, he is employed. Yeah, in a business, in the community.
If you guys find that some of these things need to be changed, tell us that they need to be changed, because it was kind of a cluster, you know what, to get even to this point, to have you guys sitting at this table where we had to change multiple things, multiple times. So if you all are like, we need something else and you want to make the suggestion, make it, because this has been a very,
And I,
probably missed something.
So when the library board is going through right now, updating all of our policies to city, our intention is that we're gonna send kind of one packet to council at one time of here's all the changes across all the policies. And we've learned from experience that as we're doing that, we fixed one policy and realized, oh, wait, this other thing has some kind of impact over here too. Let's change that too. And so it ended up where we have to draft and redraft a few times, but out of respect for council's time, holding off until we have one kind of collective package to do at one moment. And maybe in this case, if we're still feeling out the edges of what this role should be and could be and what we want, maybe we hold off on recommendations to amendments. Get the people in that are willing and able to now to serve, understand what complementary assets we want from other ex officio members. And then whenever we have a good grasp of what we want it to look like moving forward, put that together to council's desk in the future.
And then we should probably just touch base with these ex officios that we're we're going to recommend appointment to and make sure they're still willing. As of, late last year, they were all still very interested. I just want to touch base with them, make sure they know that we've recommended them. And then we can take it before council, first meeting of February. Thanks, but.
For the appointments versus the change.
Right, I think right now, I guess we don't need any changes.
Yeah.
to this.
I don't think any changes are needed. I think they're pretty straightforward. As outlined.
Do we want to make a nomination or, a motion? Oh, yes. go ahead.
Can I very awkwardly have a word with you for a second?
Yeah.
Sorry. Like the,
While they put that on, I'm just gonna pass this around. If you could just double check that the email's on there, that's the one you want the public to have.
And your picture's not blurred out.
I couldn't figure out why it did that.
Why is that? That's kind of funny.
On the website, but none of them are blurred. But when I printed it, it blurred. Well, it's a video.
Well, I guess I just would update my title on there.
Oh, I don't think that.
Yeah, but I can do it then.
Oh, yeah, I guess look at that too, because some of you, I put your business next to you, or your business was already next to you. If you don't want that there, just make whatever change.
and scene.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Did you want to make a motion and then for the ex officios?
Well, so I guess let me just make sure let me just repeat it, I guess, so we're all clear. So the item open for discussion is appointment of ex officio members. The first that we're recommending would be Dr. Eric Wright with ACISD. From GSMP. Do we have a name or would we
I think at the moment we
Appointment to their
can, have
group or
the,
how would that
the
work?
president, unless he wants to appoint someone else. In the past, it was just a seat open to, a representative from the Greater San Marcos Partnership. And it was the president, and then he had a business development, representative, that he would kind of send in his place, so. I think whoever, because I know they're kind of, they have some out on maternity leave, and he's trying to, maybe hire someone else as well, so.
I just didn't know if it had to be, how specific we had to be. Who would want him as president, and if he wants to send a
Let's do
delegate,
that.
he could,
There we go. Mike Hammerlander is his.
okay. And then,
So I do have a pause there.
Yeah.
If we're not picking a person, we need to verify that that designee also meets the qualifications of lives in the county or county adjacent and is not indebted to the city or anything else. That's harder to do as an open-ended somebody from this organization.
Well, let's pick Mike for now, and then if we need to make any changes. we can.
Is there a meeting requirement? That they can only miss a certain amount of meetings?
The only thing that there is this one little page where.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, that might make all y'all's jobs more difficult. Because then the ex officio is gonna have to find somebody reliable that meets all the criteria. Whereas if you just implemented a rule that says you can only miss like 2 meetings. I don't.
within a
what I
year, you think?
doesn't matter, but if what I did think mattered, I would say that like it's gonna be easier and probably not any risk to the group. If somebody who's respected and trusted by the ex officio has to show up twice. But if the ex officio is gonna miss a bunch of meetings, then maybe they shouldn't. I don't know, that's just
Right.
to make it easier on yourselves and that person.
Okay, so are you saying to appoint an?
I'm not saying anything.
Oh.
Very clearly not saying anything.
So what Spencer, from what you're saying is we just appoint a member of the Greater San Marcos Partnership, or are you saying?
I would recommend we pick a person.
Right.
And I want to feel your statements out, because I definitely get that. If the intent of this role is they don't count towards quorum, so it's not a concern that we're gonna not be able to meet. And that they are a stakeholder with expertise and knowledge on local assets that can be used to benefit the city of Kyle. Doesn't matter that they miss every other month or whatever. It's more of a, we have somebody who can be in the room when they're able to ask those questions.
I think so. I think that would be okay with me. I know maybe towards the end of the previous board, GSMP was absent a lot. And I don't remember what the reasoning was. I don't know if they were just, in and out doing other things.
And
So
when they were absent, did that impact the ability to accomplish work?
No.
Oh, but it's nice when they're there.
Yeah,
It's helpful,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
It's very, it's certainly
Yeah, we
helpful.
would still, right, there, it helped with the conversation, but we
Yeah.
we still moved on with it without them. It's more important to have the board members present.
Victoria and Lauren have great relationships with all of these folks.
Yeah.
So if they're not available, you can trust that they will get the information that you all need. And the decisions that you have to.
So we'll proceed with appointing Mike Hammerlander from the Greater San Marcos Partnership. If he wants to appoint someone different, then we'll make sure to bring that back to the board. Okay, and the other one?
Be someone from the Kyle Chamber.
Yeah.
Right? Which she was on before
Yes.
and is still willing to serve.
Yes.
Uh,
Julie Smith.
And then Cassie with the
Yes,
San Marcos Airport.
yes. Cassidy Baronato.
And then the other pending item would be just, previously we had from ACC Higher Education Representation. And these,
They were actually on the board.
correct. So I guess the pending, well, we could just leave it simple. We could start there and just appoint them.
Mm-hmm.
The other pending piece, just in my mind, is if it would be helpful to have an ex officio member from ACC. Which maybe that's a question for them.
Yeah.
As long as they meet these criteria.
I know Don had expressed to me how it was just increasingly harder and harder for him to get over here. He lives in somewhere north, yeah. And then he had so many
We'll talk to
meetings,
Someone when we do the tour.
but we could, yeah.
I think
I think
ultimately,
that's a good
Bring it back.
recommendation too.
I think he might not have been the best fit, just due to, living in, for a variety of different reasons. But I think it would, from a workforce development, from a economic standpoint, I think it's helpful to have ACC represented if they're interested.
I think so too. And especially with their expansion coming, the nursing, health and science expansion for the new school, I think that'd be great to have them here
Yeah.
as well. Okay, so that's a good start. Is that more than 5 though?
That's
That is,
four, right?
Right now, we have 4 and then ACC.
yeah, I think that's 5 total, which is meeting the max.
Okay, and then we will make effort to reach out to ACC and see who they feel. I wouldn't make the recommendation yet on any particular person, but figure out who that could be and bring that back to you for consideration for the next meeting.
Okay.
Maybe we'll even invite them to come meeting.
So just for summary, we have
Let's
4
do-
recommendations for ex officio that's gonna go to council, and then we plan to bring a 5th for
Higher.
ACT.
Yes. Okay, that'll be the measure.
Okay,
Second.
any opposed?
Thank you. All right.
No, it's all right. Next, we just have discussion and recommendation of Kyle Downtown Revitalization Grant Program. So this is what we discussed that I'm trying to discuss to bring back here. That's included here for us. It's this 10-page kind of draft document that we had here.
Yes, and we also had, Susan printed out, there's 2 pages that are associated with this item, and Susan printed out all the comments from the previous board meeting. I know that everyone wanted a little bit of time to look at it and process it. One thing that kind of stuck with me quite a bit was somebody made the comment about how we initially launched this program maybe 10 years ago or so, maybe even longer. It was around when previous director was here and I had just started with the city. So, and that's 15 years ago. So at the time, you know, $3,000 was a good amount of money for something. But now here we are 15 years later, that money might not go as far for some businesses. So, we could go forward with a recommendation to council to approve this policy and see what kind of interest we get. I know we definitely have one that's interested, but the $25,000 max, you know, isn't anywhere close to what it would take them to really make some upgrades to their building that the council would like to see. It's well beyond that. So it'll help them, but you know, if to really move the needle, we'd really need a little bit more money.
Me has been allocated by council for the.
75. Mhm.
And do we get this sense that council is open to allocating more if successful, or do we think that that's the limit of funding that we should expect reasonably to work with?
I believe that council is so focused on downtown redevelopment and improvements that if we brought to them a good solid reason and they could physically see who's applying and how much it is and how much it's costing, we could maybe make a request for an adjustment, an amendment to our budget allocation. But I think they would want to see, we'd have to put it out there to see what interest is generated before they make. There's one I know for certain that is well above the maximum. Like 3 times. So, but if, you know, and then there was some question about the, you know, just kind of wanted to talk through it with you all, and Susan and I were trying to figure it out. So the idea is that it's a matching grant. You know, if your project is $6,000, then you'd apply for that and you'd get half. You know, it's a matching dollar for dollar grant. If you look at the very first one, so the first $3,000, no match is required by the business. You can just apply for it, and if council approves the and agrees that those improvements would make a difference in your building, then they'd get $3,000. But also $2,000. I mean, it's just a little confusing. $2,000 requires a 25% matching grant.
Oh, yeah,
Or-
page 2 of the original packet is the.
Oh, okay.
Existing language.
Yeah. What did we say, Susan? Like if you wanted to apply for the,
So like in this example, if your project was $3,001, it's not real clear. Would you have to provide 25% matching to get one extra dollar? I mean,
just
It
apply
doesn't
for the
come out.
$3,000?
why wouldn't you just apply for 3,000 so you could get the entire 3,000? I don't know, it's just. So we were trying to figure out how you can word it so that everybody gets the first 3,000 outright, and then maybe the next 2,000 you have to provide 25% matching, or, you know, what was the intent?
Yeah.
Of course, we can take that. Because otherwise, whenever you change categories, it ends up hurting the person if it's $1 over, you know, in the next category.
Oh, yeah,
Percent
because
matching goes
it
up.
goes by percentage, right? If your project is 3,000 to 5,000, you only get 25%.
you only get
I mean, you only
75%.
have to match 25%, yeah, so I don't know if we could clean up
If
that.
you go to
language.
5,001, then all of a sudden you have to provide $2,500 or whatever it is, yeah. It's more, 30, yeah.
And so the intent was, if I have $100,000 project, and I know that exceeds the budget, we'll use that round number,
Okay,
but if I'm guaranteed to get $3,000 paid by the city, and then it's like, tax brackets, where every dollar above that in your tax bracket, you pay a different percentage. That was the intent versus my lump sum is $100,000 and therefore I'm paying the effective percentage share for the entire amount. Cause like, when I read this, I interpreted it more as like, I had to pay the 50% share on the entire $100,000, not that I get 3,000 upfront and then 75% of 3,000 to 5,000 and then, which is a lot more work on city staff to try and effectively implement a sliding scale.
mhm.
Well, probably neither of these wordings works well, is the problem.
Yeah,
Just gonna say, I'm still like catching up, like, yeah.
It is very, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at different numbers here, but I see what you're saying, though, it makes sense.
You know, if it were. I guess, you know, my consideration would be just how to simplify it. You know, I don't, you know, in our previous discussion, we didn't really feel at this time comfortable with the need to go back and ask for additional funds, just with it, you know, so new. But from the breakdown of it, you know, I just ponder if it's got 5 different categories there about matching cash investment. If it were me, I would simplify it a little and I would just say up to 5,000, no match required. And then I would probably add 2 beyond that, a 25% matching and then a 50% matching.
yeah, instead of 25,
If it were
30,
me, I
40,
would
50.
simplify it in that way, but I mean, you'd still run into the issue if you know, if you have 5,001, then you have to have a match, but I think that just kind of is what it is. I mean, you have to be intelligent about what you're applying for and evaluate that, right? I mean, I don't know.
So up to 5,000 is no match required. And then anything up between 5 and 10 should be 25%. And then 10 to 25 should be 50% matching. We could do that. That's only 3 categories versus.
I think that's what I would consider. I think it would make it easier and cleaner. I mean, and what's the intent? It's ultimately to incentivize business owners to update
Mhm,
their bills.
right,
And
yeah, any permanent capital improvements.
Yeah.
How far is downtown stretch?
There's a
Pretty
map.
much.
in the-
Page,
Hold on,
6.
Yeah.
Take a look of like
Look at-
Black Arrows or something, yeah.
Nobody goes all the way down to Buckeyes.
Okay.
Very limited.
But that's another point of consideration, right? If we're making it too restrictive with the match requirements within this specific area that, you know, we don't want to make it too confusing or cause any barriers for the people who are within this area, right?
Mhm.
And so Luke, if I understood you right, 0 to 5,000 is fully paid by this grant. Then from 5,000 to 15,000 would be 75% match, and then the
Okay.
rest is gonna be 50%.
Yeah.
That would basically net out to $17,500 from the grant for a $25,000 application,
Sounds reasonable.
which is effectively a 70% program.
Yeah.
Sounds fair to me.
Yeah.
I guess the other piece of it too is just to make sure it's, I mean, if somebody has a $50,000 project, they can still apply. But they'll just reach the max.
The max,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Mhm. And those, I think, can also be considered by council on a case-by-case basis. If they want to incentivize above and beyond that, then they can make that decision on their own. I think maybe it'll be good just to get it out there and
Just see what interest.
what interest we have, yeah. If there's any interest in expanding these boundaries, we can also make that recommendation to council. And note, this has to be a commercial property being used for commercial purposes, right? Because there's a lot back here that appears to me to be residential, so I don't know. We want to move it further down. We could also recommend to use the TERS boundaries that council created for TERS 6. There's, the city council created a tax increment reinvestment zone, and they used different boundaries on here. And they went all the way down, like a little bit further down the frontage road and even across the highway as well. And then I think they extended the boundaries a little further west. So we could also make the recommendation for you, when we bring the policy forward, council hasn't seen this policy. Most of them maybe weren't even on council when we had this first round, you know, back 10, 15 years ago.
Have those boundaries been determined? I thought there was another hearing, or is that something else?
I'm sorry, what,
So I know there was discussion from the last meeting. about
council
this.
meeting?
Yeah,
Or this?
council meeting.
I think they were okay with what was presented.
Okay.
Mhm.
I can remember because I think there was a lot back and forth. on
Yes, they wanted to
The open
maybe,
forum
send it-
around
yes. But ultimately they approved it with the boundaries that were presented, and they were gonna leave it at that. So that could be another recommendation. I wish I,
Do you think it would be beneficial to add another bullet point at the end of the 3 that we just made to say that you were allowed to do bigger projects to kind of promote it? Because it kind of just says 15 to 25, just like flat. So maybe put a bullet under it saying like, oh, if it exceeds 25, you'll just follow that
Open
bracket for
to,
this amount.
yeah. it's not just
So then
to
they
council
know like, oh, if they want to do a
consideration, yeah.
massive project, then they could get the 25 and they'll just have to cover all the rest and they'll have to match that 25.
yes.
So then if people want to do a big thing, they'll promote that
Yeah.
as well.
Like that.
I agree. I think that sounds great. In terms of the boundary, I don't know. I mean, that's,
Let me see if I can pull it
That's
up
kind
really
of-
quickly.
I guess, up to council. I mean, there's,
If I send it to you, can you share it on the screen right quick? Or no? Oh, okay, hold on.
as long as it stays with the intent, I mean, it still comes through council for approval, so
Yeah,
expanding it, in my opinion, wouldn't be harmful, and it's just casting a wider net, and they still,
Because the rules are the rules, it doesn't affect the residential people at all.
Do we know if for that economic revitalization zone that was recently approved, did
Pictures, yes.
council have other intentions for funding generated from there, or is that meant to be used collectively for things like this?
No, there's very specific things that the TERS can fund. It's, you know, park improvements, street improvements, infrastructure improvements. In the project and financing plan, there's very specific things that council can use it for. It
Okay.
cannot be used for, this type of, facade improvement.
So the intent is just using the same geographic boundaries for simplicity's sake and not
Yes.
meaning to graft onto that program
That's
otherwise. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the other, zone you were talking about that they approved, goes beyond the highway? What was that called, or?
It was part of the TERS number 6. Mhm. Yes, it went across to the property behind Dairy Queen, all that area. And find the map for the new, just so you can kind of generally see what. We've got some time, so give me just a.
Does anyone see anything else that they have questions about in the feedback document while she's looking for that, or? Thank you.
Really quickly, like what I was saying, are we gonna say that projects exceeding the 25,000 will only be eligible for that 25,000 within their project, or will we say that where they could bring it to the board? Or to the council?
To council, I think, Helen, you had what did your statement was,
So if someone
for
has a
consideration by council,
Yeah,
anything above
so,
it,
yeah, anything above.
special
these-
consideration by
Yeah.
council.
So
On
if
a
we
case by
say
case
that
basis.
25,000 would be covered and then they could have the option to bring it to council?
Yes,
Yes.
for any addition.
then Spencer had brought forward and some of this feedback about needing to lay out the procedure for bringing things to council. And that would be similar here. We would need to figure out the mechanism, how do they actually. How do they show up with this in home?
Down the map, and let me just jump on here and share this. Maybe it's. There's the map. Yeah, so it's quite a bit larger. I don't know if we want to go this, because I think the intention is to keep it, is to really keep it, in the downtown area. In the, I guess the historic Center Street down there.
Like, me, when I think of downtown, like Center Street, where City Hall is. A little bit towards Vaqueros, not necessarily Blanco, all that full street back there. This is more of with the exception of 35. This looks more like a downtown, map to me.
This original, it's really hard, this map is hard for me to read and see if, this go sort of Center Street and then Hayes, I mean, does this kind of cover
This is
where
what's
Pizza
included.
Classic is? Was this the old map?
This is
too?
what's included in the current downtown.
This is a plan.
Oh, the downtown master plan.
It's 12 blocks.
Well, that's another good thing to point out that Susan brought up. This map was used in the new downtown master plan, so I think we should probably stick with it if that's what, and council will adopt that soon as well, so.
Seems reasonable to me. That, I didn't realize
Yeah, I didn't
that
realize
was that big.
hold over to the other side. but-
Yeah. Okay, so maybe we won't. Let me take a minute to ask Ariane if she had any comments, since I know we haven't.
So no, the one thing I can say is as we were looking at this, zone 6, I did feel like that was a little bit too large for consideration as the downtown. So I do like that smaller. I think it's 12 block radius to stick with.
Okay, good, thank you. Do we want to make a recommendation?
Well, I guess the question is if there's any additional feedback on this, right?
Yes.
This is the same one we had from December, right? The changes were on this.
Same one. Yes.
I had nothing else happening what's on the, what listed here.
Okay. Do we want to make a statement of a recommendation to council to approve the policy with these amendments? And they were, mainly just the clearing up the dollar amount figure, right? Everything else can kind of stay.
So with the proposed
Or-
amendments we discussed or with this additional commentary? Just so I'm clear,
Yeah.
I'm
right.
fine either way. I mean, I don't,
With everyone in agreement with these?
I'm tracking these, plus what we talked about today.
Okay.
so
I think one
I
thing-
don't disagree with these. We just probably need a little more clarity on what exactly that means to add them into here.
I think we can work on, the statement can be, work in, rewrite the policy to include the board's comments from last month, plus the comments from this month, and then bring it back to council. I don't think we need to
Do you mean comments or changes?
changes, recommendations, So it could be these that we have here that were from last month.
Yep.
Plus what we spoke about today.
Combine that here,
which- Yes, which
and then
are
that goes where?
into one draft, into one policy,
Okay,
and then it'll go to council
okay.
for recommendation, consideration. And Susan and I can work with that. Do we feel like we need to run it by you?
Well, I
for
guess
the
that's
board
my
again?
final, I guess that's the outstanding question is, do we want to take one look?
I think I would
Last
like to
look at it
see an
before-
updated version of this with the feedback that we have from this 2-page draft plus the comments from today, and then just one final look through before it passes through. I think I would be more comfortable with that.
Let's do that.
So then that'll come to next meeting.
Yes.
So then I guess the goal is to take the feedback today, this feedback, and put it all in one, and then send it to us, and then we'll vote at the next meeting. For final discussion and approval.
Okay, and then that meeting is on February the 14th, Valentine's Day, and then it can go to council on the 20th of February,
Okay.
right?
And then next up, we have discussion and possible recommendation of how business launch pad initiative.
Susan, is this what was attached to the council agenda, or is this the changes that
This
we made?
is already with changes.
Oh, good, okay. So Susan had kind of drafted this policy and then, Councilmember Heiser, I wish he would stay for the conversation, but he, wanted to bring this forward to council so that we'd have the full support of council to take on some of these initiatives. I don't know that, this may mean additional staffing, this may mean additional funding, so that's why it's good for him to have put it out there to council and for us to work together to come up with a plan of how to implement support for small businesses. And if we need to make any further, we'll need to present the, a fully fleshed out plan to council, in the coming months. But, if it requires any additional support from council, we could have it because they all unanimously agreed that we need something, for small businesses, and entrepreneurial support, that sort of thing. If you want to take a minute just to look through it. So some of this can be done, by our team. And then some of it can be just directing small businesses to the appropriate resources for support. So it doesn't, not all necessarily going to happen out of our office. It'll be just kind of focused resources. But I think it's great to bring it up with this group because a lot of you, you've done this, you've been there, you've started, I know Julian, I've firsthand witnessed your efforts as a small business owner to get started here in the community. So I think you'd have great feedback on what you felt you needed, what was, what we could have provided better. And I'm sure you talk to business owners all the time that.
I talk to a lot of people who
Want to-
want to start something
Mhm.
and they just come pick up stuff like that.
Yeah, and it could be also involving any one of us in a series of, discussions with and inviting aspiring business owners or even existing that want to do something to kind of ramp up their business, and for us to be available for conversation and maybe a series of, we can come up with topics, a list of topics, on how we can help them.
One thing I was gonna ask, and I just don't know the other side of this is, I myself have directed many small businesses who want to open or do something here outside of the home. They're ready for
Mhm.
maybe a brick and mortar, but I refer them and I refer them to the Small Business Development Center, but I don't know the outcome of that. I don't know how helpful it was or wasn't. I'd like to know that, so I'm not just sending them there and then I never, I'll see them again eventually, but
Yeah.
is this actually helpful? I don't know.
That's a very good.
And I'd like to know.
The thing we ran into, is we didn't find, we used to go and ask questions like, hey, how do I get a permit for this, or remember, like, you two were like the ones who were like, oh, you know what? Kind of took us under your wing and stuff, but outside of that, like, there was not a whole lot of places where we could go and get information that we needed. So I'm sure it's been almost 8 years, so maybe it's changed a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, but,
Yeah, and I think just having someone on the city side as well, guiding them for the process, once they do, they can find a location, plus the permitting process is actually kind of daunting sometimes when you don't know what you're doing, and that's where Lauren and Susan are really good at helping people.
that's what I meant, like, that's what, y'all made that easy for us, and as easy as you could.
Right.
Because it's still, you gotta do your own thing at the end of the day, you still have to fill out everything and present everything that you're asking for.
But making that connection with
Yes.
other departments within the city is definitely.
I think something that might be helpful would be when you have like a workshop or a series or something, maybe a volunteer, someone could like videotape it or write notes on it or something, so that way you can put it on the website or something, so it's always
Yeah.
there. Because new business owners don't all come at once, they're always
Mhm.
coming.
Right.
So if you just do a workshop, you don't wanna do it every month, but you don't wanna do it every year because you miss out on a bunch of people. So being able to keep the information that's already been given, so other people can get it online, might be very helpful.
That's a good.
Because
Yeah.
they might not live here yet, they might not know it was happening.
Sure.
But if you're like, oh, hey, we had a workshop 2 months ago, we have it on our website, there's a video, or here's the notes from it, or that kind of stuff might be very helpful.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
echo that. Just, it could even be a series of webinars as a workshop
Mhm.
as well. It could be a hybrid model.
Yeah.
Not everyone has the availability to, whether they're going through the permitting process or running their own small business. They don't necessarily have the time to drive over and attend. So even just, that's just one way to continue like that community building aspect of, hey, we have people signing up online. We can send out regular emails regarding anything that comes out of small businesses.
And that might be easier for volunteers. Volunteers might be able to say, oh, I don't know if I can come down for this full day, but I could work on webinars over the course of a month.
Yeah.
On my free time, I'll spend 30 minutes working on it every night, and then I can send it over to you. So then you might get a lot more help for it as well. Moving it a little partially online as well.
Yeah. I think that was one thing we also realized, is that small business owners are so busy running their business, it's hard for them
Yeah.
to get
Step
away.
away for a full day.
And I was gonna mention, webinars are great, how-to videos are great. We have, I think in the building department, they have something to that effect. But what I am finding and what I'm learning as I'm working with all these small businesses is they don't have the time, to actually sit and watch. So it's easier just to find somebody
That too.
who works for the city to tell them, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
We delegate.
I'm old school, and I
Yes.
prefer.
A live
face-to-face.
person, absolutely.
Yeah. And a lot of people, there's a lot of younger generations that are like, no, I just want to do it online. And I totally get that. It saves a lot of time and gas or whatever. But I also just old school, like, I just want to ask you the questions in person and then walk away with like, oh, this is. I just feel like it has more of a lasting,
Yeah.
just the information I retain it better personally.
Mhm.
Yeah, but, that's what we have
Building
to.
yeah,
Yeah.
hit different markets, different people.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think written is a lot better than video.
Yes,
I can never, I'm like, I don't have time to sit down for an hour-long
Right.
video or start it and then stop it later. But
right.
if there's like something where I can like search keywords, or if it's like, hey, here are your 3 steps, that
Yeah.
would be something that I think
Mhm.
all audiences would enjoy rather than a video.
Did you have a comment, Ariane?
Oh, they just covered it. I was gonna say having those different options available for those who prefer that in-person connection opposed to those who are just too busy and don't have time. So having that information available online for those people as well.
Last, okay, and then, like last year, we put together a small business symposium where we did invite members from SOAR, from Small Business Development Center, Hayes County, Development Services, the chamber was there, the governor's office was there, our regional partners were there. And they, it was like a tables all around the room, and then we just invited people. We had a brief introduction in the beginning, but then it was a kind of come and go, walk around, see who you need to talk to. And that seemed to be very well received and well attended for a first year event. So maybe having another,
Yeah, it's
making
like
it
a
an
job
annual
fair,
event.
Yeah, for
There you go.
entrepreneurs. It's like, what do I need to know? Do I need to know permits, management, this? They can just go to the tables. I really like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really good. I really liked that event.
Is that the one we did at, City Hall?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people came up to me and my wife and started asking a bunch of stuff. And it was cool to connect with them that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought it was beneficial.
Okay, maybe we just kind of build off of that event that we had and see how we can make it better and maybe move it around, maybe have it in the evening versus, I think it was from 3 to 5. And
Yeah.
so if we need to maybe move it to an evening event, maybe move it to a different location. I've been looking at a lot of different resources that other surrounding communities are doing from the region, from Austin, San Marcos, New Braunfels, just to also pull some ideas and that I can bring back as well. So I think this is just the start of a conversation. We'll incorporate some of your comments, and the staff and I, Lauren and Susan and I, will maybe put some more kind of parameters around it, how we can handle this. We have a page on our website. I think it features y'all, a picture of y'all that says how to start a business.
Okay.
And what we did, because we were in a bit of a hurry to get the website launched, we just pulled from what the state of Texas had
Oh.
and copied and just kind of pasted it on there. But I think it should be more specific to how to open a business in Ohio
Absolutely.
Yeah.
and have our contact information on there. and-
Show how much we care about it. Like we want them to.
Right,
come.
the other one's very generic,
Yeah.
So, but this, yeah, I think we can work, and something we can do immediately is that. And then I also encourage business owners to follow different, like the SVDC, and SCORE. They always have free webinars or maybe very minimal cost webinars that they can participate in. So if you all, in your course of your day, come across any resources that you think are valuable to businesses, just shoot me an email with them. I've been doing that with Susan too, and we're gonna build a little database on where we can send those out to people. Just different options. I found some webinars that the SVDC is hosting in the month of January that I think will be beneficial to businesses. It's just a lot of looking around for the resources that are already out there and finding a way to get those connected. Is that kind of, I mean, that gives us some good,
Good enough.
yeah, okay, and then we'll come back with another. I think we can follow the same timeline as the revitalization grant and bring them both to council at the same time.
I know, the city manager has set a deadline for us to be done with it by February. so-
Yeah. Well, there will be.
Bring it back.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your willingness to, participate in a small business symposium. If we ever needed your help or your expertise, then I think we'd count on you to maybe be there and help talk with other future business owners.
And I guess, not everyone's here, but we did want to remind everyone, if you haven't done the training that the city secretary sent you, you have 90 days from your appointment to do it. So, and then let her know when you're complete.
You've already done it. You already did yours though a while ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure you didn't have to.
I think
You
it's
have to
like
do it
3
again.
hours. I just knocked all of it out in 3 hours. So it's
Yeah.
not too bad.
For straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay. think that's all I had. Do we have any other notes? Off the top of our head?
Did we do board member updates? Did we gonna do that? Or were we gonna do that? I'm out for a second.
Yeah, no, we didn't do that, but I think just for now, we kind of kept it.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
We'll keep it to the discussion.
Gotcha.
Um,
I think that's it for
Mhm.
today, unless there's any other discussion or items. All right. Anybody have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
So moved.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know how to
Thank you,
stop the
Ariane.
recording.
Oh, sorry. Have a great day, you guys.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Oh, I think.
I think you just
Susan-
hang
oh,
up.
Susan, did you stop recording?